All right, we are back on the road again today for another deal. A few days ago, a post went up on Facebook Marketplace for a early 2000s Polaris Trail Boss 325. I think it's a lot like the 330 I just got, but it's the earlier model. It's like white and red and looks a little goofier, but nevertheless, he put it up for I think $600. Said it just doesn't have spark, and he can tell that the coil wire is damaged, and so it hopefully it should be that easy to fix. It's got kind of some goofy rear tires on it. He said the previous owner robbed the OEM tires and put on these weird street tires. They're really small and they look kind of goofy, but nevertheless, it has all the plastics. None of them look broken. It looks a lot cleaner than the last one I picked up, and I think a lot of the parts are interchangeable. So I'm going to look at this Polaris Trail Boss. It's like an hour or so away from my place, and I offered him $400. He kind of sat on it for a few days, and I think a few people just didn't show up. So I'm gonna go look at it. It's supposed to be pretty much complete, and hopefully it just doesn't have spark. It also is missing the drive chain, which I think is kind of weird, that it's both the rear tires and the drive chain have been kind of messed around. Makes me think maybe there's something wrong with the back end, but nevertheless, I'm gonna go look at it. I'm hoping to get it for more like $300. But we'll see. I brought my jumper. Hopefully it'll turn over with electric start. Apparently he hasn't even messed with it to the point that he couldn't even tell me if the electric start works. So he hasn't even hooked the battery up to it. He just said it turns over and has good compression with the pull rope. So I'm gonna go mess with it, see if it's worth my time, and let's see what happens. So here we go. All right, so I picked up the Trail Boss 325. It ended up being kind of a bummer. I got there and the guy said that everything was pretty much there, and I immediately noticed that there was something pretty big missing. If you can look here, there's a big gaping hole. Yeah, so he said it was missing the drive chain back here, which it was, but he completely failed to mention that it was missing the entire transmission. And so I was pretty bummed. I was about ready to leave because I was at like 400 going in, and I was like, hey, there's no way he's going to take, significantly less, because all I can do is use this for parts. Originally thinking, I was like, hey, whatever's missing on this one, I can probably steal from my 330 in my last video, and then I can hopefully get this one running. It doesn't look that bad. The plastics are pretty much all there. I think it's got a few ugly holes kind of put here, which is common on these, and I think it doesn't have any major cracks, and the front looks pretty nice. The plastics are decent for what I paid for it, but anyways, I was kind of like, well, that's a bummer. I did check compression. I did luckily I was able to jump it, and it did start right up. It did turn over. The start is on this side on the 325s instead of the key, like the 330s. And I hooked up my jumper to the where the battery hooks up, and it actually did turn over just fine. So I pulled out the spark plug real quick, plugged in my compression tester, and I got 130. So I was kind of excited about the engine, being all right. But at the end of the day, it's nowhere near worth 400 in my opinion. So unfortunately, when I got there, the guy who was selling it left, and his brother took over. And yeah, I don't know. That's just what happened. So he's like, yeah, I'm just here to sell for my brother. I don't know anything. So I was like, hey, well, it's missing the entire transmission. And he didn't mention that, so I'm not going to pay $400. I was like, I think the most I could do is $200. Kind of like the last one. Luckily, it did have the Mikuni carburetor in there. So it's got the OEM carb that I know is worth $200. So I offered $200. I was like, hey, that's all I'm going to offer. The engine seems all right. I mean, it turns over nice, but it's at the end of the day, it's missing the entire transmission. So I don't think it works with the later version transmission. I'm pretty sure you have to have the transmission for this one specifically. So kind of bummed about that. The seat is actually not too bad. It has, I think, one little ding here, but otherwise it's in pretty decent shape for what it is. It is missing the lid to the entire air box, has no filter, and doesn't have the intake here. But once again, Mikuni carburetor, that's, you know, it's worth what I paid for it. Hey, bunch of trucks going by. But it does have this scoop, which these scoops are worth like 40 to 60 bucks on eBay. But yeah, so no secondary transmission here. I can't even tell if the primary transmission's there or not without getting the right tools, and it's kind of butchered with two different bolts on there, so I didn't even get a chance to look in there. So it might not even have a primary clutch on there, but yeah, I ended up paying $200 for it. I don't know if any of the lights work because it's missing the entire shift shaft transmission combo, so you can't see a neutral light or anything. So I don't know if the dash works. I don't know. I might be able to test the light on it. So honestly, I'm probably gonna just have to part it out for what I paid for it. I might just sell the carburetor. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I was really hoping to take the two and combine them and make one running bike. And even with the two together, I don't have a lid. And I need a filter. I can steal a filter and the lid for my other one. So all I need is an intake, and I think I might be able to get the blue one running and actually ride it around. And he said it didn't have spark because it had a cut wire. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but plastics really aren't that bad. I know there's a crack right here. Probably the worst crack. It's not that noticeable, but I think there's a dent there. Other than that, well, there's one right here too. Dang it. Quite a few. A little bit of rust here. Overall, the frame's not too bad, I would say. The exhaust is at least here. I was gonna steal this one and put it on the other one because it's at least functioning. It looks like it's barely on there. That's interesting. Got your goofy back tires, and she does turn over. You can kind of hear it. It's got pretty good compression, 130, and these bushings are shot, I would say. And same over here, shot bushings. The shocks seem quite decent, actually. It's hard to tell, but shocks work good. I think this is an aftermarket shock here on the back. I don't think it had a Fox shock on OEM, but I could be wrong. It does seem decent. The rear brake doesn't seem to be doing anything because it's not hooked up there. This master cylinder has seen better days. In fact, this is just kind of sitting here. I think it's supposed to be like that. Yeah, that looks correct. What else? Let's see, the throttle cable's not even hooked up, which is kind of interesting. And luckily, this seemed to work. I do want to test if the light works with a jumper, but the start switch did work, which means a lot of the OEMs seem okay, and the front brakes, believe it or not, they work pretty good. So we might not have rear, but we at least have front brakes on this one. And radiator seems all right. I think the electrics components are mostly hooked up, but without taking this off, I won't know. So that is the Trail Boss 325. It is a 4-stroke because I'm a 4-stroke bloke. But yeah, overall, I don't know. She looks all right. Let me know what you think. Was it worth $200? I think taking into account that the carburetor is a Mikuni carburetor, but not the best deal. But I think I can still make a little money off of it. I did drive an hour, so I figured I'd at least offer something to make it at least somewhat worth my time. Yeah, I don't know what these tires are for. I was kind of surprised that they even had the right bolt pattern, but do they have the right bolt pattern? I'm trying to see if they just made it work or if it does. I think it does actually have the right bolt pattern. Definitely missing some lug nuts. The front tires, they're starting to be a little dry rotted, but they're actually okay. The rims are quite dented. So I think mostly the only good stuff on here is going to be some of the plastics, cover, engine, and maybe some of the electronics. I think if I got a battery on there, I'd know a little better. But I do know the kill switch works. If I hook it up, I might be able to see if the light works. These lights can be worth a little bit. And maybe up here as well. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it's probably worth a little more than what I paid for it, but for the most part, not my best deal. So let me know what you think. Was it worth 200 bucks? Look how silly this looks. It's got these tiny tires on the back, which I originally had planned on stealing from my other one and putting it on this. I was hoping to make this the bike that ran, and now I might end up making the other 330 the one that runs. But yeah, at the end of the day, I still have a bunch of projects I'm working on, but unfortunately, I'm just missing a lot of stuff. Got lost in the mail. The Raptor, I was missing rings, and the Predator 500, I need the shift shaft, but they're finally here, so I'll be able to get those going and have those projects done soon. So I'll see you guys soon. Peace.